Hi everyone, it's Karen and I'm back with my second design team project for the month of June for AngeldreamCraftsKim on Etsy. And I will leave links in the description box below to her beautiful Etsy shop so that you can go over and have a look at what she has in the store. And I know she's got some new things coming in shortly, so hopefully you will have a lot of lovely things to look at and pick from and create with. And I also will leave links to the designers in the description box below so that you can go over and see what they are creating with all the beautiful goodies that they receive as design team members for AngeldreamCraftsKim on Etsy. So what I did this time was I wanted to create some snippets. So I thought, well, I'll do a snippet roll. But I do my snippet rolls a little bit different than some people do. And I used to do them the way that I've seen a lot of creators make them. And I always struggled with cutting them apart. So what I've started to do when I create them is I create them with the idea that I want to make cutting them apart easier. And I don't have to worry about, oh, well, I can't use beading because I'll cut through the beads, or I can't use a cabochon because I can't cut through a cabochon. And so I will show you my beautiful snippet roll, and then I'm going to show you how I cut it apart. So I'm going to show you the middle first, just because she's right here. And didn't she turn out just gorgeous? And these snippets are going to be so great to use for tuck spots, for making like a really fancy paper clip, using for tucks as part of a side tuck in a page. They also can be used on the front of a card. They're going to be, what size are they? They're going to vary in size because some are a little bit bigger than others, but I think this is the biggest one. And it is 11 centimeters. Let's look at it in 4.5 inches wide and about 3.5 inches long. And you could take this lace off the end and you can make a small card more like 3.25 inches. And so would make a beautiful topper on a small journal or on the front of a card. And so since I'm here, let's just go and start at the end here. So I used this gorgeous fabric from Kim's shop. You can see it in the background. I had it in my design team package. It has the words and the stamping on it. And that is my background fabric. And I frayed it out all on the edges and the ends, and it frays so pretty, which I thought was just something that went along with what I was doing. And then I started to pile on the laces. I used some digitals from my stash, and then I also added on some butterflies from my stash, and I stickled them up because it makes them stiffer and more able to handle being bumped around and moved around and used without ripping. And then I also added this cabochon is from my stash, but Kim has these Paris cabochons in her shop as well. And they're really, really pretty. And I use some of my own digitals. Well, not my digitals, but some I'd purchased. And then this is a little flower from Kim's Blings. This is that beautiful beaded trim that she sent me, and I cut it all to pieces, and I used several pieces here. This is another trim here where these leaves are here and here. Well, I've used them as leaves. It's sort of a dangle trim. And I've sewn them on with beads. So there's little pink beads you can see in there. And then 2 butterflies also with beads down the middle of them. And most of the stitches you can see they're on the back. So I left them so they're visible. But I mean, once you glued this down, you're not going to see them anyway. And then I added this pretty trim right here on the edge. And then I started the next one. And when you look at this, you think to yourself, well, that's overlapping that. How is that going to work? I'll just show you in a second. Let me show you this one. So this one, I've got some of the beautiful pink and gold floral that she has in the shop, and I used some gold thread to stitch those on with. I used a tiny bit of glue to glue things on, like little flat back acrylics. Otherwise, I used stitches and embroidery floss to stitch this particular snippet roll together, or snippet strip, and of course glue to glue on cabochons. And then I also glued and stitched some. This one's got French knots in the corner of the little digitals that I used as well. This one will be glued on the back of the roses. And then right here is where I will eventually cut. If I bend this back, I can cut in between here, and what will happen is this one will be on its own, just like that, with this still sticking out the side, and this one will be plain down the side with a bit of this pink flower sticking out the side. And then if I want to, I can add another little bit of that pink flower up here once I take them apart. Or I can add a whole new ruffle or something down the side of this one, depending on what I use it for. So when I'm creating these, I've created as a strip, and it looks beautiful as a strip. And I could leave it hanging up. It would be gorgeous as a strip. But it also can be cut apart without having to guess or mess up things when I'm cutting it, because that's what I always struggled with. So this has some of her lace in the background. It had little flowers on it, and I just used that in the background. That was from a previous design team package, and of course you can see some of her pink felted, the little felted hearts on it, and I know she still has that in the shop. And it's a netted fabric, netted fabric with these little pink hearts on it. They're so cute. And I cut out little extra ones and dotted them in places. This is one of her acrylic blings, so pretty. And she still has those in the shop, although that is from a previous design team package. These little ones are from my stash, although she has some little flat back acrylics in her shop right now too, and they're really pretty. And then this is one of her cabochons. This was in my design team package. And it has, I think they're peonies on there, but peonies and roses are so beautiful together. So, and then this is the next one. And this one has the leaf trim down the side and then dangling off the end. And then this is a beaded trim that was from her shop that I used a piece of it on the bottom here. Another piece of that gorgeous beaded trim up the side here. Little butterfly there, and you can see how they can get kind of bent, but how easy they spread back out if they've got stickles on them. 3 little 11 seed beads in the center, sewn her on. A little bow from my stash, but Kim does have some bows in her shop. This is a beautiful digital that I have. And then again, this one, I can cut it right in between here, and I won't affect either of them. This is the next one I made with, this is a little bit of pink lacy trim that was in Kim's shop before. I had a little piece left. One thing about snippet strips or rolls, or when you make snippets, is that you can use little pieces that you have left. That's why I never get rid of them. And I've stitched that on with a pink embroidery floss. This little heart is from my stash. This is one of the dangle flowers that was in my design team package, and I love the dangle on that. And then I've added one of her gorgeous peony cabochons in the center. And then again, that fabric is in the background. That was from a previous design team package, but is from her shop. And then I just did little beaded centers on those, and a digital and another bow. And again, that one's going to cut apart right there. This one, I have used this gorgeous lace in the background with this fringe on it that is from her shop. And then these little daisy flowers were from her shop from a while back. She may still have something similar in the shop. You just look for the trims that you can, I just cut it apart. And the digitals again from my stash. Another one of her gorgeous peony cabochons. All her cabochons are just gorgeous. I can feel a little bit of glue on there, glue string. And then, of course, another butterfly stickled with some beads and another bow. And these acrylics are just from my stash. And it's so nice to be able to buy things or get things from Kim's shop and also mix them in with your own, what you have. And all her laces, trims, bling, everything always mixes in so beautifully with what you have in your own stash. So here's another one. I use some of the beige lace in the background for the base, then a digital, then I use these beautiful leaves. And again, she usually has leaves in her shop of some kind or other. These are from a previous design team package. Again, I save everything. I've used little 11OC beads to stitch those on. So that's what you see there and there. And then I did 2 tiny little beaded butterflies on that one. The word Paris on there and another little bow. This is one of her dangle flowers again. And that's another one of the cabochons, this one with the Eiffel Tower on it. Then this one with this beautiful trim. This trim is so pretty, and it's a dangle type trim, but I've used it as leaves, both of these. And then I've used some little gold seed beads to stitch that on with. Another little pink and gold butterfly there that I've beaded. And then some digitals, and then another one of the beautiful pink and gold trim. And I know she still has this in the shop. It's such a pretty trim. And then one of her little bling acrylics, and then a couple more of mine. And that makes up that one. And then the last one on the edge here, I used some of the leaf or the netted trim with the leaves on it in the silver. And I just pleated it and put it down the side here. And then this is one of her charms, the pin with the heart on it. I believe she still has those in the shop. And then I used that same netted fabric with the leaves on it in the background. And then these are flowers from this trim, this one here that is in the shop. It has these flowers on it, and I cut them out individually and I stitched them on with blue French knots. And then I added the digital on that one and a bow as well, and another little butterfly that's stickled. So cutting is really easy, and I'm going to go ahead and do some of them. So right in between, this one I left really easy. This ruffle already added onto it. With any of them, you could, after you've cut them, you could add a ruffle. This flower or this leaf appears to be over here, and a lot of people glue things down and then they would have to cut through that. I just don't glue on that sort of imaginary line I create for myself, so that when I go up and cut this, I don't have to cut through that. And now that will just be laying over the edge. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you could add a little ruffle of some kind down the side. I've got a few goodies here from her shop, so I thought I would just give you, here's a pleated polka dot trim that she has in the shop. She still has this in pink and in white. And you could add that down the side like that. And then that could hang out off the side of your page, and this could go in, and then you glue it down on 2 sides, and this could be a tuck part in here. And how pretty is that? Or if you wanted to use this on a card, you could actually put this trim all the way around it and surround it with this trim, and then add it to the top of a card. And it would make a gorgeous, gorgeous gift to give someone. The cards I make like that, I know some of my friends I've given them to, and they actually have kept them up all year round because they just love them. They're so pretty. Because usually I don't put anything else on the front, so that this, if you displayed this, that's what you would see. It's almost like a little tiny wall hanging. Here's the next one. I've just trimmed it right through. This leaf looked like it was hanging over. The key is, do not glue down your imaginary line. Wherever you create in your mind where that cutting line is going to be, these things can fold over on each other. The little daisy can hang over on that one. The leaf can hang over on the other one, but they're not glued down. So that when you actually bend it up, you just cut right through there, and you have your perfect little piece ready to go. Wouldn't this look gorgeous on the front of a card? Oh, beautiful. And you could substitute in this. You could just easily slide in happy birthday or thinking of you over top that little Paris piece instead of leaving that there. Okay, so this one you can see, this looks like it's all hanging over here, and it is, but it's not glued down, right? So you just bend them back, bend them apart from each other so you can easily see your imaginary line, and then cut. And use nice, good, sharp fabric scissors. Don't mess around with your scissors that you use on your paper, because you're not going to get a nice clean cut. These are nice, sharp scissors. They're only for my fabrics. Here's another little one. What does the next two look like? So this one, the pink, looks like it's hanging right over into this one. So does this flower. I mean, if they were together like that, you'd be, if you glued that all down, you'd wonder, where am I going to cut? But if I go like this, I can see this isn't glued down. This is not glued down. It's all just free. And this is not glued down. So now I have my cutting line. And I just go straight up. Careful not to cut anything. Up it goes, and there you go. There's your little snippet. It's fine on the back. And again, you could add, what else do I have here that I could add to it? Like here is a top of the leaf trim, and you could add something like that in behind there. I often take, because this is quite thick, I don't like it quite that thick in this application, so I would just cut that down. And there you go. You have this little extra piece now down the side. And so your snippet even gets bigger, has more decoration, or you can leave it just like that. So this one, again, the leaf trim looks like it's coming right over onto this one. But if I bend it up, I can see that I've left myself a place to cut. So don't cut my leaves, and just stick close to the edge of the leaf trim. And up we go. And there we go. That one's all done, ready to be used. And I have this one left. And this is a little bit, I would say, wonky on the edge here. And so I would just trim it down, mainly because I want it to match the edge of the little digital that I put here that says Faith. I like that to look straighter. And this one would be really easy to add. Again, you could add some of that pink flower trim, and I have some of that left. So because you have it on the other side, you could easily add some of this in, some more of this in here. Just cut a few pieces off. This one here would look really nice, but you could take this and just cut that little piece off right there and add that in there and let the leaves stick out. I'll do it so that you can see it. Sometimes it's not all about just what I say. So take this little piece and I'm going to put a dab of glue on the back of it, and I'm just going to put it right like that. And so you have these leaves sticking out on this side. And I like little pieces that stick out when I'm doing a project. They don't need to all, everything doesn't have to fall like in a perfect way. I'm going to cut another little piece out here. This trim is just like so nice to cut up. I'm not sure I even used it in a project altogether, which I know is probably terrible, but I just find it goes so far when you cut it up, and you can make it look so pretty. So we could put one more right in here as well. There we go. So you're still seeing the little acrylic flowers I put on there. You've added a little bit to the side, and I'm going to put this little bow back on here. This is just a little bow from my stash. I always glue things on just with the smallest amount of glue, just what's needed, and so that I can always take them off if I need to. And then when I go to work with the item, I always double check all my little pieces that I have glued on to make sure that they tightly in place. So underneath here, I'm going to clip very close to the one on the end. This one here, because it is all finished, and it has the lace that's going to be sticking out, so you're not going to see if the fabric is a little bit off. So you can see how when I cut it's curled over a bit because of how I had stitched this up at the top. but from this side, it looks beautiful. And you could take one of these layers off the end if you only wanted one layer. You wanted it to be more lighter and delicate. But how beautiful of a topper would that be on a small journal? Because this one's a good size. And you can also build up around it. I do that often with like one like this. If I put this on the side of a page, I would build above and below it with, or I'd probably put it at the bottom because it has this beautiful drippings here. I just love these beads. And then I would build above it with maybe some more of these digitals and some more of the leaf trim. And if I had more of the beaded trim, or do a white trim and add some beads to it. And then you can use it for up the whole side of a page. And now this one, you can see that it's dipped in a little bit here because of the way it was cut. So again, what I will do is I will add a little piece. I'm gonna add this in here. And then that will even that all out. So I'm going to put a dab of glue on the back of here. So that goes in there. And I want it to stick out on the edge because I like the look of that. And I want it to look like it was planned and intentional. And how pretty did that turn out? And that was adding a couple pieces on this side and a little piece on this side once I had cut it out of the snippet strip. And it's super pretty. So that is how I do a snippet strip and how I am able to then cut it apart and have these beautiful pieces and how I can add to them. And I already mentioned all the pretty things that I can use them in. I hope you will give it a try making yourself one. My email is always in the description box below, so if you make some, send me a picture of it. I'd love to see it. Thank you all very much. I appreciate all my subscribers so much. Thank you very, very much for being here and spending some time with me today. If you feel like it, you can hit the thumbs up button and give me a thumbs up. It just helps my video be seen by more people. Add a comment, that always helps too. And if you aren't a subscriber, would you consider maybe doing that? It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the subscribe button. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye.